Yes, every president gets annoyed with Congress, but this one has sunk to a whole new level of "you're making me crazy, man."
If House Republicans are really concerned about me taking too many executive actions, the best solution to that is passing bills.
It's a huge blow to the Obama administration.
When the state expands, even if it's doing stuff unintentionally, has no intention of impinging on religious practice, it will inevitably.
We'll consider whether or not there's an opportunity for the president to take some other action that could mitigate this problem as well.
I take executive action only when we have a serious problem and Congress chooses to do nothing.
Obama, 175 rounds of golf.
The problem is that our system is so broken, so unclear, that folks don't know what the rules are.
You're making me crazy, man.
Freedom prospers when religion is vibrant and the rule of law under God is acknowledged.
An informed patriot is what we want.
Welcome to Focal Point, the home of muscular Christianity on Conservative Talk Radio. Muscular Christianity, where we relentlessly explore the intersection of truth and politics.
The trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so.
Now, here's your host, Brian Fisher.
Happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary.
What's going on here?
What's going on is that was a lame attempt to celebrate my 5th anniversary as an employee of American Family Radio Talk Network. My first day on the job 5 years ago today, July 1, 2009. Now, the first radio program, the first radio broadcast was not till July 6th. So that's always the day I kind of keep in my head as the anniversary date, which would be, what is that, on Monday, I guess. But this was my first day here at AFA and those 5 days spent prepping for the very first program. Anyway, glad to be here. And
Brian,
yes.
You know, that makes 1,662 shows today.
Holy smokes, 1,662?
Yeah.
Good grief.
You did all that without saying anything wrong.
Yeah.
Anyways, congratulations.
I guess it all depends on how you define wrong, doesn't it? All right. Well, listen, Jeff, thank you for that. That was nice of you to slip that in there. Program is Focal Point Network is AFR Talk. We're talking about this accusations. And again, I want to stress these are allegations at this point. We're just reporting what this black pastor has said. These are explosive accusations. He's speaking not about what he heard or even what he saw, but he's speaking about what he did. This is the kind of evidence that you depend upon in a court of law. This is first person, an individual talking about what he did and his own actions and his interactions with other principals in the deal. So to me, I think it carries a lot of weight. You have to make up your own mind about whether you regard him as a credible witness. It seemed to me that this wasn't the kind of thing that he would be fabricating. There was certain credibility to the way he told his story. And again, what's going to be critical is whether there are other black pastors who come out and corroborate his story. Because remember, Pastor Fielder said, look, I was in a room at the Cochran campaign. This is his story. And there were a lot of people that are in there at the same time who were engaged in the same kind of activity. Again, I want to be clear. Said it before, this is not an attack on Senator Cochran. I don't think Senator Cochran had any idea this kind of thing was going on. Frankly, I doubt that very much. I think it's people around him. If there was some malfeasance here, I wouldn't lay this off on Senator Cochran, but the people around him that are kind of running his campaign. And if there was, then I think the people deserve to know that. And if there was nothing unethical here, then Cochran deserves to be completely vindicated in the eyes of the public. So more investigation obviously called for. Well, let's take some calls, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Let's begin with Gary in Tupelo. Gary, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Yeah, thank you, Brian, for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
My heart, my thoughts and prayers go out to the lawyer down in, I think it was Jackson, that supposedly took his own life.
Oh, yeah, that was a terrible tragedy, yeah.
And my prayers are with that family.
Amen to that.
And I think what we've got here, Brian, is why would these preachers come forward knowing that they're going to be prosecuted? They're the guilty ones. And why would all of this just come to effect after the fact?
Well, and I think you raise a good point, Gary, about and let's say for the sake of argument that black pastors were involved in this. If they come forward, then they're admitting their own guilt, their own participation in voter fraud, which has obviously some pretty severe legal risk for them. I mean, the penalty for committing voter fraud in the state of Mississippi is up to 5 years in prison for every single offense. And that's the risk, obviously, that Pastor Fielder is taking, because he's now admitted, words from his own lips, he can't call those back. He's now admitted that he himself participated in a voter fraud.
Well,
and so he's got some legal risk here. And what you're saying, Gary, is if everybody closes ranks here, circles the wagons, maybe there will be no corroboration of Pastor Fielder's story, even if he's telling the truth.
Well, I agree with you, Brian, and I just can't understand. Well, I do understand it. There's a lot of corruption going on in this campaign, but now on our voting laws, we've got lobbyists in Washington that do the same thing, and we've got to get a control on it too.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Gary, and I appreciate your call. What Gary's talking about, really, if you look at this thing from the standpoint, this kind of thing that Pastor Fielder is alleging went on, Gary's right. This happens all the time in Washington, D.C. We talked about this before, that you have K Street lobbyists. These guys get a lot of money from industries and corporations to lobby congressmen on Capitol Hill. They get paid hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to go into a senator's office or a representative's office and urge them to vote for a piece of legislation that will help their industry, that will help their company. And they promise the lawmaker campaign donations if they will assist this bill through to passage. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's buying their vote. I mean, that is a bribe. In my book, it's legal. I'm not saying that it's criminal behavior, but I'm saying it's immoral, and I'm saying it's unethical, and it probably ought to be, against the law. So, but to me, that's a bribe. When a lobbyist goes into a senator's office and says, if you will vote for my bill, I'm going to give you X number of dollars, or we will give you X number of dollars for your campaign, they just bought that guy's vote. And then when the guy goes and votes for it, and he gets the money back to his state or whatever passed, then the lobbyist comes back and says, good job, we're with you. The lobbyist gets money because the legislator, the lawmaker, has voted in an appropriations bill, let's say, to send money to that industry or to that company. So the company benefits, the industry benefits, and they say to the lobbyist, hey, you're doing a terrific job. Here's another couple $100,000 to see if you can do the same thing next year. So you have this vicious, incestuous cycle where money flows from industry to lobbyists to senators and then back to these big businesses and corporations. None of it, there's not any one part of that that's about doing what's best for the state that the lawmaker represents, or doing what's best for individuals that may be impacted. And remember, we saw that study from Harvard University. 3 professors said, look, the more money flows into a state, the more the economy of that state shrivels. The economy of that state shrinks because the federal monies chase away private sector investment. If you look at a state like Mississippi, I would argue that it is a curse on the state of Mississippi to get all of these federal dollars. It is a curse, and it is not a blessing, because it chases away private sector investment. And what does Mississippi need? Mississippi needs jobs. It needs economic growth. It needs higher wages. It needs more jobs. What you need to get that done is private sector investment. The more federal money comes into the state, the less private sector investment there is. The more the economy shrinks, the worse it is for the state of Mississippi. So it's good for the lobbyists, good for the lawmaker, bad for the state of Mississippi. Back in 2.
Here's Twyla Brace, president of CCHF, with today's Health Freedom Minute.
This is the 10th anniversary of health savings accounts. A recent study found up to 20 million policyholders and their dependents have one. Interestingly, 70% of the accounts have been open since 2011.